Hello and welcome to WilmingtonBiz Talk, brought to you by the Greater Wilmington Business Journal. Today we're going to be talking about the possibility for development on the west bank of the Cape Fear River and northeast Cape Fear River across from downtown Wilmington. And we'll be speaking with a couple of developers who have a vision for that, for some property over there. But first, we have a message from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Ann Gardner, CEO of Cape Fear Realtors. Realtors support this program's efforts to connect our community in meaningful dialogue with actionable insights. Realtors are dedicated professionals who build strong, resilient communities and businesses. Work with someone you can trust. Work with a realtor. Learn more at capefear.realtor.
Today, we are talking about Battleship Point, a proposed development that would be built on Point Peter, sort of an area of land that goes out into the Cape Fear and Northeast Cape Fear rivers that can be seen from downtown Wilmington. And with us today are Jim Lee and Kirk Pugh, who are local people in business. Kirk is a realtor and Jim is an attorney, and they're both developers. And they formed KJF Development Group to work on Battleship Point. And we're going to be talking to them a little bit about their proposal and the status of the project today. So welcome, Jim and Kirk.
Thank you, Cece.
Well, I'll start with you, Kirk. Tell us what is the latest on the Battleship Point proposal. What's happening with it now?
Well, I think many people have probably read we were walking down parallel paths with New Hanover County and the town of Leland. Most recently, the town of Leland's planning board reviewed our request for annexation, our text amendment creating a new zoning ordinance for the town of Leland, and our request to be taken in under the town of Leland. The planning board approved that measure 4-3 in a 4-3 vote on all three measures. So the next step would be for us to go in front of the Leland Town Council to sort of ratify all that. Sort of new, not in the press really, is that we have temporarily withdrawn those items from consideration from the town council's agenda for their upcoming meeting next week. As everyone knows, the planning staff and the New Hanover County Board of Commissioners met last week in a pretty lengthy planning session. There was a lot of information delivered there, and they have agreed to hold another meeting to discuss what the future for the West Bank might be. So we're appreciative to the county that they're moving forward, albeit slowly, and we're going to wait and see how that plays out with the county before we proceed with the town of Leland.
So the potential annexation is not completely off the table by the town of Leland, but it's just on hold for now while New Hanover County works through what they want to do next.
That's correct.
Okay. And so what are you doing right now logistically as far as like getting the property prepared for the potential? I know we've talked before about there's a lot of hurdles to go through. Like, what can you do in the meantime to work toward the development?
Well, I mean, we've completed a fair amount of debris removal, roughly 400 tons of scrap metal, tires, concrete, you name boats, cars, planes. There's a lot of stuff over there. There's still quite a lot left to do. Probably another 100 tons of material to be removed. What we are getting ready to start work on is some soil stabilization and some erosion control measures over there, just to stabilize the whole point area. And then we'll gradually kind of pick away at the remaining debris and trash that's over there over the next 30, 60, 90 days.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the project. And I know people are somewhat familiar with it, but as far as like what you're hoping to see there, is it still condominiums and apartments and a hotel? Are those still some of the factors that you want, to be part of the project?
Jim, you want to take that one?
You go ahead, Kirk.
Yeah, so our conceptual design really hasn't changed. It's a true mixed use community with residential condominiums, multifamily apartment rental dwellings, lifestyle retail, and we hope to have a hospitality component, a mid-sized to small boutique hotel as part of the project.
Okay. And you've said in the past, I think you put a number on how much the project could cost of about 500 million. Is that still a good estimate?
Yeah, I think it's who knows what's going to happen with project construction, if and when we're going to be able to get started. But the estimate is now somewhere in the neighborhood of $487 million.
Okay. And I know that you had, had said, you weren't going to comment on the financing, but I had not asked you this before. Had you ever considered a public-private partnership like that of Project Grace or River Place, to do with the county or another, or Leland? Is that something you guys ever talked about?
Never really even crossed our mind. So.
Okay. Well, what do you want to say about some of the issues that folks have brought up, like, for example, at the New Hanover County meeting you mentioned, and in Leland, about the potential for flooding and those kind of concerns?
Well, the key things that some members of the community have brought up as reasons for not moving forward with development, several of them have to do with water, nuisance flooding, what people call sunny day flooding, sea level rise, and of course storm events. And it's not a matter of if any of those things are going to happen, because some of them are happening daily now. A storm event is a storm event, and we may not have one this summer. Thank the Lord we escaped last summer without one, but there will be a storm at some point in the future. And Jim and I have the utmost respect for Dr. Shu and I can't remember the fellow from Western, Dr. Young, Robert Parr, the Riverwatch folks, the Wilmington Historic Foundation folks, the NAACP. We respect all of their concerns. Interesting to note that not a single person who is leading sort of the opposition dialogue has said that it is impossible for us to build over there. What they've all said is that they don't want us to, and they have a right to that opinion. We have experts, Dina Prastos with Indigo River specifically, who is among the top in her field. She's a dual degree civil engineer and architect, and her firm out of Nyack, New York, deals exclusively with development and construction in environmentally sensitive waterfront areas. She's read a very lengthy feasibility memo that says not only can we, but we can do it in an environmentally responsible way. And while all we have right now is a conceptual design, I think it's important to note that overcoming the obstacles, the health and safety issues, the durability of the building, the resilience, the environmental impacts, all of those things are overcome with design and engineering. The NAACP has sort of joined the chorus for a few different reasons, some of them being the cultural heritage of the Gullah Geechee corridor, and a question about whether or not there are artifacts of historical significance. I think what a lot of people don't understand is that it is our burden as a requirement through the CAMA major permit application that we conduct an archaeological survey of that entire property. And if the survey were to return any items of historical or cultural significance, we would be required by law to preserve preserve those items, subject to whatever the requirements of the federal government are. And so we feel like a lot of the concerns have been well publicized. And we said repeatedly that we recognize, appreciate, and are compassionate to those concerns. We also have answers to all, but it is really only 12 or 14 months. Is a zoning change to allow us the opportunity to go and spend the money to conduct all the further investigations, the environmental studies, the geotechnical engineering, the hydrologic raised about whether or not building over there is a good idea.
CC, I'll add to that just a minute. Since, as a lawyer, it's hard to sit here and not talk to Kirk. Not smarter than I am about this process. We have spent a year working on this project. I don't think anybody knows that. We've engaged an architect, some in engineering, Indigo River that Kirk was just talking about. So we have spent, and we've been cleaning up the property, by the way, to the extent of the 400 tons that Kirk has been talking about. That costs time and money. We've been working with the county staff, I think is excellent. What we run into is that we are simply asking at this point for a zoning change that's in accordance with the 2016 land use plan for the entire county. That was a lengthy process, and there was a recommendation that they have urban mixed use out on this site. And we are trying to get to a zoning district out there, or a zone that allows us to at least move forward. And there's a lot of things we have to do once we move forward, kennel permits, things like that. I think anybody realizes that simply changing the zone in accordance with the 2016 land use plan doesn't open the door for us to just start building the very next month. We got a lot of work to do, and I get very frustrated. As an example of that meeting on Thursday, I appreciate the fact that they had the meeting, but all we heard from is the experts they were calling in, some of which have already expressed their, disagreement with the project or their resistance to it. And we asked that our experts be able to talk to the county commissioners, and that was prevented at that time. So the one time that we've been able to really present our case, and I talk about it from a lawyer standpoint, our case, but really present it with the backup of the Leland staff, that planning board over there heard us and understood the issues. And that was a great opportunity for us to be able to finally be able to put our side out there. So I think that's just crucially important for us moving forward.
And will that be part of any additional, I'm not sure what the timing is on the next, New Hanover County session. Would that presentation by your experts be part of that discussion?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, if they're gonna have another meeting, I hope that we have the opportunity to present the flip side of what they're hearing. Not really the flip side, that we're not that far apart. We all got to understand that, Wilmington is in a flood zone. Our convention center is in flood zone. Sawmill Apartments in the flood zone, and they built over there. And here we're over the West Bank, and it looks like hell over there. And it has for 40 years that I've been here, and I'm sick and tired of looking at it.
Yeah, you've mentioned
drive over there,
driving over the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, driving over the bridge, you look down to, either way, to your left or right.
Right.
And you just see nothing but junk. And if you're standing across the river, even at a concert, what are you looking at? Cranes, just junk. And it's just been a problem in this county and city for 40 plus years. And, we know there's opposition, but we are aware of it, aware of the concerns, and we have engineers addressing it so that Wilmington can move forward and not backward or not stay the same.
And Kirk, what do you know about the timing as far as future meetings by New Hanover County?
Don't know. We haven't, all I know is that they said they were going to schedule another meeting. I have not been informed of when or if that's taken place yet. I doubt that it has. I'm certain Rebecca would have let us know that there was another meeting coming up, but I don't know when the date of that is. At this juncture, last time it took them about 3.5 months to get the meeting on the calendar. So we'll see.
But the fact that they want to continue talking about it is what, and we talked about this at the beginning of this interview. The fact that they want to keep talking about it has led you to put the Leland request on hold.
Yeah, for the time being. We started this with New Hanover County. We'd like to see it through until we can.
Right. So ideally, New Hanover County, you'd have the ability to have that zoning that, you were seeking with New Hanover County. And then, like you said, move on to all the other things that have to be done before you can even start.
Yeah, I equate this to a 400-meter hurdle race, CC. I mean, the first hurdle for us is achieving a zoning classification that is better than what we have now, which is heavy industrial. So there's been some comments about projects in town that are going to be built by right. So by right today, Jim and I could go over there and build a paper plant. We could go build an auto salvage yard. We could build a petroleum storage facility. We could do a lot of very onerous things over there by right under the heavy industrial zoning designation that land currently carries, or the county and we could come together to agree on a zoning classification that makes sense. Many people probably don't know that there is a piece of property on that side of the river currently zoned RFMU, which is Riverfront Mixed Use, but it is an ordinance that was drafted by the county probably 15 years ago in order to spur development on that side of the river. Because of some of the restrictions in that zoning ordinance, it's never been attractive enough to a developer to utilize that zoning designation. But that's kind of the basis. We took pieces of the Riverfront Mixed Use ordinance. We took pieces of Wilmington Central Business District ordinance, and we combined them to make it make sense for a developer to want to develop on that side of the river.
Okay, and if you have a moment, I'd like to pull up the renderings if you have time to talk about those.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do this by sharing my screen. Okay. All right, and hopefully this is showing up on Facebook too. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me what I'm looking at here. These are 3 towers that could be built.
That's correct.
Correct.
And
Kirk, you want to jump in on this since you're the real estate guy? I'll just say this is a mix of condos, apartments. We hope to have a very nice hotel in that front building that you're looking at. Down in this area at the bottom, a nice restaurant. We want to have commercial space. We're going to have commercial space on the plaza right in that area where we have, grocery stores, pet grooming, spa, local people coming in, business people that want to open up on that commercial end in that area. If you'll see the way the design works, you'll see over in the corner of the ferry terminal that we have. Our Riverwalk is the white sort of line around it. You see the Riverwalk there. And so we want to have the ferry that goes back and forth. And there's quite a bit of, green space over there based on what our design is. And that's why you've got to go in these developments. You got to go vertical. I think that's far more environmentally sound than the sprawl of spreading out this kind of density over a large piece of land. I mean, people are going away from that. They're going up instead of down or out. So there are a lot of thought has been put into this. And our engineers can explain I mean, you can see at the bottom that we are accounting for flooding, rain. I mean, I think, Kirk, if I'm correct, we start our residential part of this at what, 49 feet?
49 feet above mean high water. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean high water. You won't even, I mean, if we have a 49 feet surge in New Hampshire County, we'll all be under water. I mean, I think the highest I've ever known is Fran was 12 feet, was it, Kirk?
I think Fran was 12-foot surge, and that was out of the beach.
Yeah, out at the beach. So we've designed this to take care of all these problems. And, and people may not like the design, they may love it, I don't know. But it's a very innovative, environmentally conscious design. We're proud of it. Kirk, anything from you?
No, I just keep in mind it's a conceptual design, right? And so
Yeah.
what Jim and I have been asking for and what we crave from New Hampshire County leadership is just some direction, right? So part of the reason for the request to them for 240 feet was because there was already precedent for that height on that piece of land, right? And part of the reason we've kind of stuck to our guns on that is because of the resilient design of this building, where we literally have, and it's difficult to tell from the renderings, but the entire first level up to 12 feet is what we call a sacrificial first floor. So none of this shoreline on either bank, either the Northeast Cape Fear River or the Cape Fear River, is a hardened shoreline. So all of Wilmington, for the most part, has a hardened shoreline. This is all a living shoreline with suspended river walks, not built on a seawall, but they're suspended from pilings. And when there is that king tide, or when there is a storm surge event, or in 2050, when the level of sea level is forecast to rise somewhere between 12 and 14 inches, depending on whose science you look at, it allows the water with sea level rise to kind of creep up the shoreline. With a storm event or with a king tide event, it literally allows the water to wash under the building without divergence, without impacting other areas around the point. It allows the water to do what it needs to do without being impeded. Now, Dr. Parr, Dr. Shu, Dr. Young would say that there would be some divergence of floodwater because of the piling structure, and that's true. And we haven't done the hydrological study yet, but people have said that it is fractions of an inch of divergent water, not feet.
Okay, and then with that 240 feet, so these buildings will be 24 stories? Is that correct?
Kirk, we lost you.
I think we lost Kirk.
Did
Jim,
you lose me? It really depends. Go ahead.
240.
Oh, it's Kirk again.
yeah,
Can you hear
breaking
me,
up.
Cece?
I can hear you, yeah.
It's really going to depend on what our parking structure ends up being, and what,
Right.
everybody says that middle floor that you see up there is where we plan to put our spa and gym and things like that.
Yeah,
So that's accessible to everybody that's living there and the apartments. There's a pool area in each area. We've gotten into right much detail. I mean, it's about the height from a conceptual standpoint where you're standing up at the PPD building. I mean, it's not that much different. If you draw a line from PPD over to the top of our building, they're almost exactly the same height. So how many floors? I mean, you can count the floors. I mean, you can count them right up there.
right.
How many did you count?
I lost track.
And on top, that's a penthouse sort of, the luxury suites up there that we had planned.
I count 14 from this starting here, but is under here where parking would be? Or
Yeah,
that's where
and
commercial
here's
is?
where parking would be. You see these,
Okay.
that's parking down in there. I don't know how we lost Kirk. But that's the parking structure down there. And depending on the number of units, the reason we're having, this is a conceptual design, tell you exactly how many floors we can go up is because we don't know what the height's going to be, and the density and how many people are living there is going to definitely be affected, and that may affect the parking area. We may not need as much. But we're never going to abandon the goal of keeping the plaza that you see there and the living space well above any concerns about flooding or tide or anything like that. I mean, we plan this to go well above. Now, when you're talking about 49 feet up to even start a living space, imagine you're standing in the county commissioner's room and the water would have to come up to that level in downtown Wilmington when you're on the
Right.
second floor of the county commissioner's room to reach that level, which has never happened in the history of our county, and hopefully will never happen. So that's how serious we're taking this.
Right. But for now, you know, it's on hold. The requests are on hold as you wait and see what the county schedules next. I just want to reiterate that just to make sure I understand.
Yeah, that's correct. It's on hold until we are able to get some guy. I mean, it's not just as much guidance. I don't think there is any doubt there needs to be a zoning change up there, because I can't imagine anybody in Wilmington wants to continue to be zoned industrial and have somebody come in there, put a big plant up there or something like this. Just not the look. And I think that we just need some guidance about, and we've had a lot of support from the planning staff. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I think the county and Leland did a great job. In fact, Leland went and took pictures from across the waterway and showed what it's going to look like on the Wilmington side from all different views up and down the river at various heights. They did an excellent job on that, and everybody needs to be able to see that so they can see that this is not going to be at 240 feet, the thing that they think it's going to be. And they can see it at different heights. So we hope we'll be able to present that too if there's a planning session. But right now, we've got to continue to clean the property up because it's just terrible looking.
So
And we will continue to do that.
So that'll be the tasks you guys are focused on right now as you're waiting.
That's correct. I mean, you can see we have done everything we need to do as far as, in fact, we've done more than we need to do to come in and get a zoning change. I mean, maybe we got out in front of our skis a little bit because everybody can look at this stuff. We've done way more than we need to do just to come in and get a zoning change, but we're being upfront about it. We're being open about what's going on and what our plans are, and so people can comment on it. We could have just gone in and said, change the zoning and we'll show you something, or sketch something out of a piece of paper. But you can see the work that's going on in this and we have expert reports about what can be built over there and how to build. We just want to be heard.
Okay.
That's where we are.
Well, if you guys have anything else to say, let me know.
Okay, Kirk, are you back?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me?
If you have
Okay.
anything to add, Kirk? We were just talking about next steps and.
Well, I think the next steps are, we're hopeful that the county will get this meeting scheduled sooner rather than later. We remain hopeful that the result of that meeting will be some direction from the county, and by that I mean we took a great deal of time and effort on behalf, with both our effort and the county planning staff's effort to craft a zoning ordinance that the planning department actually recommended for approval to the planning board.
Right.
Planning board had some hesitation around that text amendment, and so we hope that we will get some direction as to how to amend it if it needs to be amended, so that both the planning board and the board of commissioners can get behind it and allow us to start that 400 meter hurdle race. And in the absence of that, if we get completely shut down, then we'll have to continue to look at our other opportunities. But the town of Leland was an option that was made available to us, and we pursued that. We think we have we had some success there, and we believe strongly in the project that it is something that will benefit the community. The economic impact, CC, from this development is forecast at $212 million a year for a period of 10 years during the development and sellout phase. It creates 1,200 jobs for southeastern North Carolina, and it creates additional tax revenue for New Hanover County, somewhere between $5.5 and $6 million a year. So not only do we believe in it as longtime residents of the county, we believe in it as something that will benefit the community and something the community can be proud of for generations. I mean, we strongly believe all that, and we're not pushing aside any of the concerns that have been raised by some of the opponents of the project. We believe strongly that there is a somewhat silent majority that either doesn't care or is in favor of the project. And we believe that we can allay the concerns of the environmentalists, the Historic Foundation, the NAACP, the League of Women Voters. All the concerns that they raised are valid, and we recognize them, and we'll address them in a responsible manner. We're just, we're looking for the opportunity to do something positive for the community.
And those economic impact numbers you mentioned, is that from have you guys had a study done?
It's an informal study. We based it on benchmarks for other developments and of this size and scope and what it did for other communities. I'm sure at some point we'll dive deeper into that and really get into the actual metrics for Southeast North Carolina, but that's a sort of a preliminary forecast.
Okay. Well, Jim and Kirk, thank you so much for coming on Wilmington Biz Talk. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be catching up with you again as things progress. Next week, we'll have Kemp Burdett and Travis Gilbert from the Historic Wilmington Foundation, Kemp Burdett from the Cape Fear River Watch, to discuss the potential development on the other side of the river. But for now, again, thank you, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thank you,
Thanks,
CC.
CC. We
Thanks for having us.
All right,
appreciate
bye-bye.
the opportunity.
Thanks.